Welcome back to the podcast. I did not release an episode last week, had a very long weekend, decided to take a break. Over the weekend, we had a family trip. It was so much fun, and I was just feeling really exhausted and decided not to stay up until midnight to edit an episode to put out. So I skipped last week, but I wanted to come back this week with some breastfeeding information because World Breastfeeding Week started on Thursday. And if you've been listening for a while or you follow me on Instagram, you know that I have been breastfeeding forever. Basically, ever since I had my oldest, which she's almost 4 in a month, I've been breastfeeding. So I breastfed her until I got pregnant with the next baby, breastfed through the pregnancy, tandem nursed, eventually weaned her, but kept breastfeeding baby number 2 through the next pregnancy, tandem nursed, weaned Tula 2 or 3 months ago, and now I'm still breastfeeding Carlo. And I did the math, and I've been breastfeeding for 1,465 days straight. It's such a gift, and it's such a beautiful journey. Honestly, I have completely loved it. I wouldn't say honestly, I've completely loved it. The beginning with Jovi, getting used to it was tough, but also I struggled so much postpartum with her. Looking back now, and I would say between 4 and 6 months, it started to get easier. But I wanted to do this episode because I wanted to talk about a few things that are completely killing your milk supply that we're not really given information on. As with all things women's health, and especially when it comes to babies, breastfeeding, anything, we're not sent with a lot of information. Like, nobody asked me, they'd ask me if I was breastfeeding, or like at the pediatrician, they're like, are you nursing or formula feeding? Okay, how many feeds? But that's as far as the conversation went. There wasn't like, if I'm like, oh yeah, my supply is dropping, there's no further conversation like happening or education going on. But there are a few key things that are impacting milk supply. So I wanted to start off by giving some of the statistics happening when it comes to breastfeeding. Not everyone intends to breastfeed their kids. Some people know from the beginning that they want to formula feed. So this is exclusively for breastfeeding moms or women who know that they want to breastfeed their children. So the percentages, this is roughly the percentages of those who start out breastfeeding and how quickly it tapers off. So about 83% of babies at the right when they're born are receiving some form of breast milk, but only about 62% are exclusively breastfed. By 3 months, that drops down to 45%. And by 6 months, about 25% of babies are exclusively breastfed. 55% are receiving some form of breast milk at some point, but probably some sort of combo feeding happening. But it's pretty alarming that about 80 to 90% of moms say that they intend to exclusively breastfeed their babies, and by 6 months, less than 25% are. There's so many factors that go into this. Just even having to go back to work and not realizing maybe how hard pumping at work and all of that could be on you, depending on your situation. There's just, a ton of different things that's impacting that. So I want to talk about a few things that maybe aren't talked about as much that could be completely tanking your breast milk supply. And one of them I'm going to share actually happened to me this time. I've never experienced it in any of my other journeys. And so now I'm really passionate about it because I was not warned and it happened to me. But I'm going to talk about a couple of the obvious ones. I'm going to lump them together under stress. So stress, sleep deprivation, those things can impact your milk supply in a stressful event that happens in your life. that is also leading to like lack of sleep. And it's like, hey, I just had a new baby. Of course I'm stressed out. It's like, yeah. So how can we take care of ourselves? I'm not going to tell you to prioritize sleep because I've been there. And when people are like, yeah, you got to prioritize sleep. And I'm like, have you had a newborn before? Have you had a newborn and a toddler? Have you like, it's impossible. But the things with sleep that are in your control are putting your phone down at night, going to bed earlier. I know for me, it's so easy for me to stay up late because that's the only time I have to myself. So lately, I've been going to bed at like 11 o'clock when I could easily be going to bed at least by 10. But I just want to like tune out, watch a show for a little bit, take my time unwinding from the day, not have somebody saying, Mom, 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 1,000 times, which those things are needed too. So maybe trying to set a timer like, hey, I'm going to unwind for 20 minutes and then I'm going to get into bed, give my body the rest that I need. And, minimizing stress can also look like deleting apps on your phone. I know when I had my first, I had like the breastfeeding tracking app and I had the growth chart tracking or like the leap thing and all this stuff. And it actually caused me so much more stress than help. If my daughter latched for a minute, I'm like, she latched on the left for a minute. Now stop. Okay, then she actually and I was tracking everything to a T. And if I missed it, I would freak out. And like with her naps, I'm like, oh, this says that she should be getting 14 to 16 hours of sleep a day. And today she only got 13 and a half. So we got to push bedtime up 30 minutes. Which people who know me would be like, that sounds really out of character for you, because it is. But I was a first time mom and I did not know what I was doing. There's no manual for this. And you're trying to do your best. And then you kind of learn that your kids are fine as you have more. So with my second, I was completely more relaxed, but I got to a point with my first where I had to delete these apps because they were causing so much stress instead of like tuning into my daughter's needs. Like, I'm her mom. I'm going to tune into her cues. When she's hungry, she's going to let me know. Yes, we kind of have a nap schedule, but if it gets pushed a little bit, or if she gets tired earlier, if she wakes up earlier, we're going to go with it. We're going to adjust. It's going to be fine. Even now, nap time is stressful for me a little bit because none of my kids nap except for the baby. So, and my 2-year-old should be napping, but she fights it. So, and I don't have 40 minutes to lay with her to put her down for a nap. So nap time can still be stressful for me. And that's why most days I just let it go. But that is another way to kind of impact stress. Putting up boundaries in your life can help with that stress too. So if there's, an in-law or a parent or somebody in your life causing a bunch of stress, relationships, anything, some sort of relationship, putting boundaries around that. This is your mental peace. This is your family that you have to protect, that you have to be mentally okay for. So it's okay to put up boundaries in your life to minimize stress as much as you can, because there are going to be so many things that are completely out of our control. So stress is going to be one that definitely impacts you. The next one I'm going to talk about is going to be medications. So medication is something that I was not warned about. So this is the one that happened to me that nobody told me. I've had mastitis in previous like breastfeeding journeys and never had to get on antibiotics. In April, I got really bad mastitis. I was like, I think I'm going to try antibiotics this time. I really didn't feel well. As soon as I started the antibiotic, within 24 hours, Carlo was refusing all nursing. And also I could tell one of my breasts in particular, the one that had the mastitis, just like kind of stopped producing. My milk supply completely tanked, and it took a couple of weeks to try to recover, and my right breast actually never fully recovered. So I am 8 months into breastfeeding, and Carlo might nurse on my right side once a day. He is pretty much exclusively nursing on my left side, and had I known this information, I would have probably not have gotten on the antibiotics. I've been able to manage mastitis homeopathically in the past. And actually, right when I started the antibiotics, my fever broke like within 20 minutes. So I knew it wasn't the antibiotic, it was everything I was doing homeopathically leading up to that point, for the 48 hours leading up to it, that had started like kicking in and working. But I was like, I'm just going to take some of this and see. And it ended up completely tanking my milk supply. And that wasn't information I was given when I was prescribed it. So I wish I had known that so I could have complete informed consent of what I was putting in my body. I didn't research it. There's other things like Sudafed, those type of medications can actually cause milk loss. So whenever you're taking a new medication, you get prescribed anything, research it, look into it, and see, could this impact my milk supply? So I'm actually going to talk about two more. So there's going to be four things that can tank your milk supply. One of them, so number 3, I guess, is going to not be a very popular one. I know people have very strong opinions about sleep training, but data does show that this can impact breastfeeding. Even when you look at this chart of like where it drops, it's like by 6 months, only 25% are breastfeeding, and most people start sleep training between 4 and 6 months. Babies are meant to wake, and not every single baby is going to have the same metabolism. Some might be able to last through the night, some might not want to, but when you sleep train them, they learn to not. And you also might have our breasts respond differently, like our milk supply responds differently. And that might be a factor that starts to decrease your milk supply. You hear a lot of moms say once their baby starts sleeping through the night, their milk supply was affected. So sleep training can potentially affect your milk supply. It might be a little bit different if your baby just sleeps longer stretches on their own, or even then it might impact your milk supply. You might have to throw in a pumping session in there somewhere to make sure that you are keeping up, and that you're able to continue breastfeeding if that is your goal. The last one I'm going to talk about, I am so passionate about, and that is going to be the bounce back culture. This is impacting breast milk supply because breastfeeding, you actually need more calories and energy than you do while pregnant. But most people are thinking, I need to lose this baby weight and I need to bounce back and cut calories, and that is impacting your supply. You have to be nourishing yourself. You have to be taking care of yourself. You need to be fully nourished. And we can't do that when we're just focused on losing weight. So postpartum isn't a season to focus on bouncing back or losing baby weight, whether you're breastfeeding or not. It's to make sure that you are fully nourished. Pregnancy takes a lot out of you. Breastfeeding takes a lot out of you. You need to be nourishing yourself and not focusing on just getting your pre-baby body back. It might eventually happen. You might have to work for it a little bit more. I don't know. People's bodies change. Some people naturally just kind of go that way, and some people don't. I know a lot of people in my life who they have a baby, they start breastfeeding, they immediately lose their baby weight, and they have to like actually eat a ton to keep it up and to breastfeed. Those have not been my experiences. I don't just drop off baby weight at all. But also the last 2 times I really focused on staying nourished and didn't even worry about what a scale said. I'm like, I need to make sure that I have enough energy for myself and to breastfeed, and that I'm getting enough nutrient dense foods to continue this journey, because I knew it was such a big goal of mine. And that's also where stress comes into it. When you're stressed, you're not eating as much. We're living so crazy. So you're just eating your toddler scraps off their plate. You're eating peanut butter and jelly sandwich crusts and a few grapes for lunch. That's not cutting it. I know that it can be stressful trying to nourish yourself, trying to prioritize your health, but you have to. So prepping some food in advance, things that you can easily grab, having hard-boiled eggs, we love salmon salad here. I posted the recipe on my Instagram several times. Instead of like tuna salad, we make salmon salad here. So it's super easy. You can dip crackers or pretzels or lettuce dips in it. Just have a few things on hand that are high in nutrients, Greek yogurt that you can easily go to get this in. Having a nutritious breakfast, balancing your blood sugar, aiming to get 30 to 40 grams of protein in the morning. Having a snack, eating lunch. You cannot skip lunch. This is something I still continually struggle with. And then having a snack and having dinner and making sure you're getting protein every single time. Having easy things that you can grab and go to has been a struggle for me. It's something I still work on, but I love those chomp sticks. I love, the other day, what did I have? I had just like a handful of nuts, a couple of hard-boiled eggs, the salmon salad, like I mentioned, Greek yogurt. I'm not doing too much dairy right now because Carlo doesn't love it, but having some cheese, just things to make sure that you are fueling yourself. For me, lunch, I love leftovers. So whatever we had for dinner the night before, I usually eat for lunch. But these things are so, so important. It's very important to focus on nourishing yourself. I know that it's hard. You might be like, okay, Liz, trust me, I've been there. I've been in the season where I'm not, and I've been in the season where I am. And it's actually easier when I am, because I have better energy and I have more focus, and then it's easier to continue to nourish myself. It's just really, really hard to get out of ruts when you're in them. So there you go. There are 4 tips to hopefully not, or to help you not have your breast milk supply crash. 4 things to avoid to keep your breast milk supply up. So stress, medications, bounce back culture. And guys, I already forgot what I talked about for number 2, because that's just mom life and the season that I'm in right now. So I know that I said 4 in here and I can't even remember the second one. So there you go. I hope that this helps. Make sure that you guys are subscribed to the podcast, and that you're also checking out the YouTube videos as well. If you want to see me, I'm actually having like a really great hair day today. Well, you can see my crazy wavy hair in the back. I have like wavy hair in the back and straight in the front. And earlier I was flipping it around and you could see, you can kind of see right there. I have silver. I have a few like gray hairs. It kind of looks like tinsel in my hair. But I am not going to dye it. I'm just going to rock it. I just have like a few random gray hairs in here. So if you want to see all of that, check out the YouTube video and we will talk to you next week.